Container gardens can be used just about anywhere, on the deck, patio, and even in the perennial border. Hi, I'm Helen Yost with Gardening with Confidence, and I'm here today with Triangle Gardener to talk about container gardens. Not all container gardens need to be created in traditional pots like this. Although it's nice, you can also go with non-traditional pots as well. For example, here's a nice repurposed piece. Just make sure that there is drainage in the bottom. An old wash tub looks great with herbs or any other type of plant. They're just beautiful to use. They can be found at the garden center or an import store. And also, your old once-loved gardening shoes make a wonderful container. Today we're going to create a container garden out of a repurposed old once-loved hose pot. You can see it has the hole in the side where the hose once went through. We're going to cover that up before we do our planting. There are three basic design concepts you can do in creating a container garden. One is to have a single species in the plant. So for our shady nook, this pot would look lovely planted with, say, hostas, and it would just be filled with hostas. I think that's very underused and it's very beautiful. The second idea is to do a pairing, particularly if you had a tall topiary and then you would put an underplanting of a skirt. That's also nice. But what we're going to do is what's called a thriller, filler, and spiller, where we use three different plants to give outstanding effect. So one of the first things we're going to do is fill the pot with some potting soil. Because so many nutrients are lost with watering, it's also a good idea to mix in a slow-release fertilizer. Oftentimes, potting soil will come with this already mixed in. We're going to fill the container to about the level where we want the plants to be, then we'll arrange our plants. We're going to start with our thriller. The thriller is just that. It's the plant that's going to draw you in, it's going to give the drama to the container and thrill you to see it. Now remove it from the container and tease any roots that might be bound. We're going to plant it here on the side. The next plant we're going to put in is the filler. Now this may not be a traditional filler. The filler's job is to kind of fill the skirt of the container and just kind of fill in. But I loved this red against the yellow. So I chose this, and you can see the roots a little bit pot bound, so we're going to tease them just a little bit, keep them from going round and round. Put it right here on the side, let it fill out more during the summer. And then the third portion is the spiller. And the idea of a spiller is to do just that. It will go into the container and spill over to the side, softening the container just a little bit. I chose an ivy. Again, each of these pieces are going to be for a shade-loving garden. When you're putting a container together like this with more than one species, you want to make sure the cultural requirements for the plants are the same. So in this case, they're all going to be shade-loving plants. We also want the water requirements to be the same. We don't want a heavy drinker next to a xeric plant. And ideally, the plants would all grow at about the same rate. You don't want one plant dominating the container arrangement at the end of the season. So now with our plants in place, we can then fill it the rest of the way with potting soil. Well, now with our container planted, we want to top dress it with some mulch. And while bark is a good mulch, and any wood mulches are wonderful, nice overlay in the container, flex your creative muscles and consider other mulches as well. This is from my son's rock collection, and I thought, well, that might be fun to be able to use as a mulch in this container garden. It's not only going to help retain moisture, but it's also going to keep the dirt from splashing out. But for sake of not upsetting my son, I'm going to go ahead and use a bark for the mulch in this design. Well, with the mulch in, I'm going to add one other element. I always like to add a little accent to my designs. In this case, I'm going to use a shell. But it could be a little bunny, a little garden gnome, or anything that you fancy. But I think it adds another layer to the design, as well as filling in space until the rest of the design fills out. So feel free to flex your gardening muscle and your creativity and create a container garden today. I'm Helen Yost with Triangle Gardener.